How's it going, Ultra buddies? This is Arc. We're talking about Arc today. This new card from SD03 has really changed things up and is an absolute powerhouse for this Arc meta. So what it does is on a triple, as activate once per turn, send the top 3 cards of your deck to your discard area. You choose one from among them and then give all your characters that share a type with the chosen card plus 1000 BP. So the way this works is if you have 3 cards, you discard them off the top of your deck. You choose this one, it has basic type, and then all your basic units get plus 1000 power. I chose basic type for a reason. This card itself is basic, so if you have a basic, it'll get itself to 18,000 power. And Arc also has like a lot of really good basic cards. It tends to be a basic heavy deck. So we're going to try to make a very basic type heavy and just juice this card to the max. So what we're going to do is I've got the core of the deck here. These cards are debatably the non-negotiables. I think these are like kind of the cards you want to be playing, and whether you add more or less of them is up to your opinion. And then we're going to talk about the supports that we can play for the deck. And then we'll just review the pros and cons of all the supports and kind of what my recommendations would be to play Arc. Yeah, so we talked about the Arc. Let's go through the rest of the cards in our deck core. The next one is the level 3 Arc from BP01. It is an 18,000 power, which is a massive 19,000 when you get the Arc Eye Sword online. But the main thing for this card is you can take one of your round 1 scenes. When you play a double or triple, you reveal one from your hand, then you discard your opponent's scene and play your own scene. And since it's playing scene from your hand, you will get to draw a card, so it's pretty fantastic. So now we have insane power boosts across the board. We have scene destruction, and it's pretty much all the strong effects you can get. The only thing we're missing is BP grade ups, and that's probably what we'll gonna get from our support cards. Next, for our level 3s is an uncommon from SD03. Just a plain old Ultraman Arc, but it is a basic type, is very important. So the important part about this card is the power is a 13,000 on the double. Both the triple rares in your deck is an 11,000 power and a 12,000 power on double, which means sometimes you really struggle to compete with the newest lane in a game. But being able to play this is a 13. If you have an Arc Eye Sword, it's a 14. If you have Arc to the Future, it's a 15. If you have both, it's a 16. So being able to play this in the lead lanes is very important for being able to contest there. It also lets you reveal the top 3 cards of your deck and send up to 2 of them to your discard area and then return the rest to the top. So you can either keep all 3, rearrange them, you can get rid of what you don't want, you can keep 2. It really helps you set up for the Arc Eye Sword. It can help you figure out what you're going to draw. It can discard cards for Wandering Future. It's just absolutely does everything you want it to do. It kind of fills a big gap in the deck from the Arc side of things. So next, for the level 2s, we of course have the Scene Searcher. So that's look at the top 5, grab a scene, and discard the rest. There's this one which I don't have an effect for, but it is a double exile 1 card from the opponent's discard from the game. It doesn't really come up. It's really just a level 2 for level 2's sake. If we had another basic, we'd play a basic. It's a basic level 2. Boom, boom. We've got our basic level 1. It gains BP grade up, so it can go to 8,000 versus a power type. If it's not, it's a 6,000. And then we have the usual suspect, a draw 2 basic type level 1. So it's really just heavy basics. And so we're going to be taking advantage of building triples and, flipping basics with our Arc Eye Sword. Next, we have our 2 scenes. Our 2 scene cards is Wandering Future. When this card enters play, you can discard 1 card from your hand to put 1 Arc card from your discard area, except for the card you discarded, back into your hand. So this is the only deck in the game now that can pull anything that it wants from the discard. Maybe it's got banned for having a card like this, but Arc still has it. So it just takes a little bit more setup because you have to have the level 3 or whatnot. So it's a very powerful effect. It lets you make your deck very consistent. And then we also have Arc to the Future, which is around 1 scene, activate once per turn, discard an Arc card from your hand, and give one of your archery heroes plus 2,000 BP. So very strong effects on the scenes, and you definitely want to be playing at least 6 of them. So this is what I say is the core, and we're going to see how we work around this when we add in the new support card. So it's 10 level 3s, 10 level 2s, 8 level 1s. and 6 scenes. This is the absolutely lowest amount of scenes I think you should play. I am very comfortable with 7, and I'm playing 8 most of the time now. So that is pretty much it for the core of the deck. You understand we have Arc-Eye Sword, which is going to give us basic power boosts all over the field. We're going to be able to destroy scenes and build a powerful 8,000 triple with Ultraman Arc from BPO1, and we're going to be able to contest the lead lane with our Ultraman Arc from STO3. So it's all basics. So keeping with the basic trend, we have to talk about the support cards. What support cards do you see with Arc? There are 3 main supports. There's Ginga, there's Hikari, and there is Dina. All these cards have their level 3s at basics, so they make very good support cards, and they each have their pros and cons. We'll talk about the deck setups for each of them and a little bit of like why you would play them, and then at the end I'll compare and contrast all 3 of them. So we're going to start with Hikari because I think it's kind of the safest, if you will, option. I'm missing something. It is the safest thing to play in general. It kind of has all the standard things you'd expect from a support card. So the first thing is we play 12 Hikaris. 12 Hikaris. Boom, 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 boom. So the level 1 is a top 3 for grab 1 Ultra Hero. The level 2 is a Scene Searcher, and the level 3 Hikari is why we are playing Hikari to begin with. When this card is discarded from your deck, you can discard a card from your hand and put this card into play on top of one of your Hikari. And the second part, if you discard a Mebius, is not relevant. So the most important part is that it's a 17,000 that can, if you have a 1 and 2 on the field and it gets discarded, you get to boom, pop it up to a triple. It still costs 1 card to discard, so it's not like a free level up or anything, but it is a very consistent way to build a triple and to build it quickly, because I would say the kind of winning image, if you will, of the deck is to build 3 triples. If you have one of these, and one of these, then you have a 8. Once you activate the Arc-Eye Sword, you have 18, 18, 19. It's very, very hard for a lot of decks to contest a 18, 18, 19 power line, even if the rest of your lanes are pretty weak. So that is basically the main goal of the deck here. You have 8 level 1 draws, which means you can be very consistent in the early game. It lets you set up very easily going into the future. So to finish off this deck, we're missing a few cards. So we had 10, 20, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is another 20. So 40 cards, 46 cards. We're missing 4 cards. The easiest way to do this, let's go up to Wandering Future here. That's 1, that's 2, that's 3, that's 4. So we're going to lean a little bit heavier on the level 3s because we also don't mind playing this as like 8,000. We'll have 12 level 3s, 11 level 2s, 8 level 1s, our Hikari package, and then 7 scenes. That's kind of like what I would recommend playing, or what I've been playing. You can also do, you can go to 9 level 1s if you want. That's pretty valid. But I've actually had a lot of success with 8, so I'm totally down to run 8 and run some cards that I think will be a little bit more impactful, which is either another one of these level 3s or a scene. So you could do 8 scenes as well. You have a lot of scene searchers. You're not going to be hurting trying to get scenes, but it's always nice to have one if you have the lead. One of the weaknesses of this deck is that you, in this arc style in general, is you struggle to take lead. So when you have a bunch of round 1 scenes and you can't take lead and your opponent plays a round 2 scene or a round 3 scene, then these guys are stuck until you get the Ultraman Arc from BPO1. So in that cases, it's not great to always have a ton of scenes. So I do think it's safer to play 7. Whether you play 4 Wandering or 4 Arc to the Future is up to you. Going forward, I'm going to try to lean more towards Arc to the Future because I think just the plus 2,000 power is really... it's just so good. It's just so good. And I can give up a little bit of consistency for that power. So let's just keep the ratios kind of like similar. So this is what I recommend for you guys. We're going to go for 7 scenes, leaning towards Arc to the Future, and doing 11, 11, 9 with our Hikari support. So let's rewind it a little bit so we can talk about Ginga. So Hikari is done. Ginga is here. Ginga has the advantage of being very similar to Hikari because when you play this card as a single or a double, it's going to be having a BP grade increase if you have another double on the field, and that will bump it up to a 17. So similarly to Hikari, you're looking to play this as a 2-3 double, have another double on the field somewhere, and then build 3 triples. So one RK Sword, maybe one BPO3, and then one Ginga is again a 18-18-19 lane. Very, very hard to deal with for a lot of decks. And Ginga is only 2 cards. That's the advantage it has over Hikari, which means you get to play more arcs. So this is basically very, very similar playstyle to Hikari. You just have to be a little bit more careful about this. But the trade-off is that you get a lot more flexibility in your decks. So we can go ahead and add 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, I'm missing my last one. Where'd it go? Here we go. Boom, boom. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we'll just add in. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 46. We need 4 more cards. So we can go ahead and play 1, 2, 3. You can maybe play 10 level 1s here. I don't have a good final card for us to play easily sleeved up. So you can go for another Ginga. I'll just flip it over. Ginga also has a level 2 draw 2 now, so you can play one of those as a 5th Ginga level 2. So you can return 2 cards from your deck and then draw 2. You could do 6 Gingas and then 6 level 2s and 4 level 3s. So basically the goal, maybe not the goal, but the advantage of Ginga is that you are able to play less Gingas than you would if you're playing Hikari. It's also a bit more consistent. You're not relying on the discard, the random discards to get your triple. And you just get a little bit more arcs. It's a bit more consistent in that sense. So that's Ginga. Ginga and Hikari both play very. Let's move on to our final. Dina gets a little freaky with it, if I'm going to be completely honest. So Dina. We have our Dina cards here. So let's move Ginga out of the way. So with Dina, we have an effect that works as a double or a triple. Activate main. You can remove one of your scene cards from its owner's area, send one of its scenes to discard, and reveal the top 5 cards of your deck. And then you get to add a level 1 from among them. For that massive 18,000 power. So this is an absolutely crazy card because what you can start doing is the Dina loop, if you will, is you can get lead, you have a scene, you play a 2-3, boom, it becomes like an 18. It's hard for your opponent to get lead. You play another scene, you play another 2-3, boom, you get another level 1 underneath, boom, then you're just like suddenly you're just powering out triples in the lead lanes, and it's very, very hard to keep up with that because like it's you're kind of a step behind. Your opponent's playing 3 cards in a lane versus your 2 cards in a lane. So once you get the Dina online, it's absolutely crazy. And I'm gonna have my 4 mystery cards, JK, they're the scenes. So Dina has an advantage, makes it a little trickier because you have more scenes you want to play, but we'll talk about that in a bit. So with Dina, you have to commit more. So we saw that Ginga gets to play less cards than Hikari. Dina has to play more because you really want to get this Dina online. In a weird way, Dina is the support card, but it shifts the focus of the deck onto Dina because it's much harder for you to build 3 triples if you don't have the Dina and you're not activating it. So we are playing Dina's level 1 is a draw 2, put 1 back, and then the level 2s we're going to play 2, return 2, put 1 to the bottom, draw up to 2. So you can return one, draw one, return two, draw two, you can return none. And then 2 scene searchers. This ratio is up for debate, but I think the way I see it is that this deck really wants to get Dinas, it really wants to get arcs. So in general, I'd rather be searching for these cards rather than trying to get a scene, because we can play enough scenes to kind of get what we need. So, there's a lot to go over here. Let's talk next about the scene card, because what this scene card does is if you have a Dina, it's a round 1, which means Art can play it. When it enters play, if you won't have a Dina, you draw a card, and if you draw a card with this effect, return 1 card from your hand to the top or the bottom. The most crazy part about this effect is that you can now set up a level 1 from your hand on top of your deck to guarantee Dina effects. So it's no longer a randomness effect, which is super, super good. So, and because you have to play more cards in Dina to support it, we might end up dropping these cards, even though I think they're very good, just to make those room. So let's go ahead and do a little counting. If we say 20 here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is 20. So then if we add 2 scenes, then we are at our 80, or sorry, 50 card deck. So there's 8 scenes with 2, 20, 10 is 20, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times 4 is going to be our last amount of cards. And I just dropped a card, and I need that card, which is very annoying. So anyway, however, I'm not just going to throw in 2 of these, because this scene is absolutely insane. I'm going to go ahead and grab a FaceTime card because I just dropped that one, and I don't want to interrupt the video too much for you guys to have to find that card, for me to find that card for you guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 2 scenes out, and we're going to kind of split the difference. We're going to have 4 Dina scenes. I know it seems crazy, have 4 scenes for the support card, but this card is so good for setting up Dina, for looking for Dinas, for looking for arcs, setting up the Dina effect. It's pretty much everything you could hope for. I think it's still important to have Arc to the Future so that you can get a power boost when you need it. And then Wandering Future, of course, is just like an absolutely crazy search effect. So that's going to be my recommendation for playing this deck with the Dina support. This is kind of how I've been playing it. I was taking a look at the Japan list because Arc Dina has been doing relatively well in Japan, and they are not playing this one at all. So they would actually rather play more Dinas, maybe more level 1s. So one build that I mean, it's just slight variations at this point, but one thing that I saw was playing like, so I took out 2 cards, so I need to put in 1 level 2, and actually need this one back. 1 level 1. Okay, so that's kind of what this build was playing. So it's doing 5 level 1 Dinas, 7 level 2 Dinas, 4 level 4 Dinas, and then just doesn't have these extra basic arcs up here, which I think is respectable, but it does worry me because if you notice the power type on all the level 2 Dinas, the more Dinas you add here, the less consistent your Ultraman arc is. So there's like a little bit of stuff going on where like I think this deck is a little bit more consistent than the previous 2, but it can do some pretty crazy nasty plays. So I do think that I'm gonna stick with this setup for a bit, just because I really like this card. I think it's very strong, and that's gonna be it for the Dina setup. So we'll end this video by comparing and contrasting the 3 support types, which of course are Dina. Let's just keep them over to the side here still. So Dina, Ginga, and Hikari. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put them in order of like trickiness. It may be more fun to put them in the middle, so we'll clean up a bit. I am so sorry. I forgot to talk about the main thing with Dina is using the level 1 arc. This is the reason why these two cards are paired so well, is because Dina really needs a scene in play. But like I mentioned in some previous talking about Ginga and Hikari, the deck doesn't really take lead very well, as it doesn't have some strong options for taking lead. So in some cases, you're very reliant on this arc, which can get a scene out of nowhere, right? You can play your level 1 scene play from the next player position, so you don't actually need lead. You can do that. You can play it as a double. Let me find a level 2 really quick. Yeah, you can play it as a double, pop your scene into play, and then discard it with your Dina to make a triple, and that can set off your like Dina loop from the next player. So this is like a really, really important combo, and that's why searching for these two is so important. So I just want to make sure that I like said that explicitly before we talk about the pros and cons of the different support ultras. So I'm going to lay them out like this. So in general, our goal with Ultraman Arc is to get hopefully 2 to 3 very, very powerful lanes, and then hopefully you can work out the rest of them. Ideally, if you play I think if you play 3 triples, you're going to win most games, and it's your opponent really can't do much about it. So the way I have these setups is kind of like safest to least safe. So actually, I should move these. So kind of safest to least safe, and then like also most consistent to most least consistent, things like that. So what you kind of have here is Ultraman Ginga is the most safe, because you get to focus more of your deck on playing arcs. You all you have to do to get this online is to make sure that you have 2 doubles. While you're building up to your triples, you're going to necessarily have a doubles, which means you can set up turns where you have a triple, like on lane 3. On lane 3, you can have a triple. In lane 1, you can have a double. Oh, that's not the card I meant to grab. You can have a double 1-2 in lane 2, and then you can have your Ginga in the 3rd lane. And what this lets you do is have a like 18 and a 17 going into the third turn, which is pretty safe. If you are playing another deck where you only have 1 triple, and it's an 18, there's a lot of decks that can bully you, especially if they kind of read what you're doing. So this lets you play like a pretty low commitment. You can grab lead, you can start playing your scenes again, or if your opponent never played a scene, and it's a much lower commitment. I mean, you can also do this in reverse, where you can use this to grab scene, or basically you can set up 2 triples pretty easily on turn 3, which is going to make you very, very safe. So this is like the safest way you can play the deck, I think. And because the deck kind of just pummels people in the late game with its high-powered columns, playing safe is very good. Hikari lets you play a little bit more consistently in the early game by having a lot more level 1s that draw, because you don't get those with Ginga. So you're kind of just like, oh, I'm going to play this. You might just play this on turn 1, get a scene, and then turn into a 17 later. It's not always working out in your favor when you do that. So sometimes having the level 1 draw is really important. It lets you sacrifice a little bit easier. And then also you kind of get to cheese people, where you can play this in a similar vein. You can go for a 1-2. This can be like turn 1, turn 2. You're just getting a bunch of cards in your hand, and then turn 3 you're playing this, and then I don't know, you play whatever in this 3rd lane. But this is going to give you a lot of mills, so you can hopefully get this, and you'll have your 2 triples. That makes you very, very safe for that 3rd turn. So again, it gives you that ability to be safe, but it is a little bit random. But on the flip side, you don't have to have a specific field set up to get this happening. Like if I just want to play another level 1 draw here, or I don't have a double, I just have to play like a scene searcher here, this is not going to affect it, because if you have a setup like this, you're going to miss the Ginga. You're going to have to, I can't level that up yet, but then that's risky too, because you only have the 17 in the middle. You have to be a little bit more careful with your board setup with Ginga. Hikari lets you be a lot more, I guess, flexible at the expense of maybe you just won't discard this and then you cry. So that is kind of where Hikari's at. It's kind of in the middle. It's a little bit more risky, in that you have to mill this card. You know, if they're stuck at the bottom of the deck, what can you do? But if you get it, then it's a little bit nicer than Ginga. And then with Dina, it is like it gives you the most options to play around with like your strategies. Like if you take lead, then you can activate Dinas, but you have some extra bricks for if you're trying to Archive Sword. You can miss that effect a lot. That can lose you games. You don't have any like strong ways to like fight lead randomly where you can play a 1-2 Hikari in the front lane, then boom, it becomes a 17. Surprise, surprise, they win the game. Or a Ginga in the front lane, it's boom, it's a 17. Surprise, surprise, they win the game. You really have to have Dina set up to do these, so it's a bit more. It's more telegraphed, but you can also play a little bit trickier because of it. So, but when you get the high rolls, you get everything going right with Dina, it blows what these two decks can do out of the water. And because of that, it has a little bit more like trickiness to it, which these two decks are a bit like more telegraphed. Like when you see Arc, I would assume that they're trying to build triples slowly, and you could maybe be wary of a lane 3 thing happening with this, or with Hikari, maybe they get random. You can't really do anything about that. But with Dina, like Dina can just come out and be like, nope, I'm winning the game, and there's nothing you can do about it. So it's very scary, but it doesn't always come together. So yeah, those are the 3 ones. I would say if you want to be very safe, lean towards one of these. If you don't want to think too hard about your setup and how you need to play your lanes and the timing you need to play and level things up, I would go with Hikari. And then if you want to get a little crazy with it, and I think the highest skill ceiling for the deck is in Dina. The most explosive turns are with Dina. So my final recommendation here for you guys, is I know I'm rambling a little bit, is if you're new to Arc, you just want to play Arc, you want to get the most bang out of your buck without trying to learn crazy combos or trying to think about when you need to set up things or things like that, how you need to set up your field, like all these things, I would go with Hikari. I think it is the more like beginner friendly and stable version, and especially if you're playing 2 deck, you might need to save Ginga for another deck. But I think Hikari, it's a very strong version of the deck, and it's very stable. Ginga, I think, is also is more a little bit more stable because you're not RNG reliant, but you have to be thinking a little bit more about how you're setting up your board as you go through the field. There's a little bit more thought involved in that, rather than just playing out your cards. So I would say it takes a little bit more brain power for this one, and it's a little better. Like you think a little bit more, but you get a little bit more payoff. And if you have your field set up, drawing one of these is an 11k in the late game with an Archive Sword, making it a 12,000. With 2 Archive Swords, making it a 13. This is an insane card to draw in the late game, and is not something that like Hikari can compete with. And then with Dina, this is the like high risk, high reward version, and I think that there's a lot of high skill plays that you need to think about what's going on in the next couple turns. Setting up your Dina. How do you want to set up your Dina? Do you want to run it early? Do you want to like slowly build up to a triple? If you can you set up with these? You want to take lead early? There's a lot to think about with Dina, but if you can really like get your planning right and draw well, then it's really crazy. It's so that's what I would say about Dina. Unless you're willing to spend a lot of time learning this deck and figuring it out, I would not recommend Dina that much. I will be trying to play Dina because I think there's a lot for me to learn in terms of playing Dina that to really get more bang for my buck out of it. But if I were to play right now in this exact moment, I would probably pick Hikari. I think it has like a little bit of that trickiness. It's just like a little bit more stable than Giga Victory, and that's kind of what I'm looking for. So yeah, that's my spiel. Start at Hikari, move on to Ginga, and if you're still really enjoying the deck and you want to add a little bit more craziness, a little bit more flexibility, bring in the Dina. The Dina is what makes the deck more unpredictable, and that's like something you really need because you're trying to get your opponent out of their comfort zone. If they just know you're going to build triples, and they can target specific lanes with Ginga and Hikari, then yeah. So last thoughts is pros and cons of the deck. Pros, obviously you build insane triple lanes, 18, 19,000, really hard to contest with. But the cons are you're very weak to BP grade downs. If your opponent can just flip one lane and then win your two weak lanes, assuming you get to turn 5, then you're kind of boned. And also, building 3 triples is not easy. It's much easier when you have these two support. It's a little bit more difficult when you have Dina, but Dina allows you to do other tricks that you can get away with some sneaky stuff with Dina. So that's it for Arc. I'm gonna stop rambling. I hope you enjoyed. It's a little 3-in-1 deck profile, so I hope you don't mind it being a little bit longer. Hope you enjoy the games with Dina. Enjoy the Dina. I called it Dina week, but we had a lot of Arc Dina. I think that's the best way to play Dina right now. So I hope you enjoyed those. Look forward to more Arc Dina, because that's what I'm probably going to be practicing. And we'll catch you all in the next one. Bye.